I've been running this particular lithium battery for the past season now with my electronics. And I was just mentioning to you that this has been a game changer with my electronics.
Yes.
Right? The weight savings, the higher voltage output, everything about this has just been a game changer.
Yes.
I've reduced the strain off of my cranking battery so that I'm never worried about running out of cranking battery.
Exactly.
When I spend 4 hours jigging and I never start the cranking battery up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's been fantastic. But it's time for me to replace some trolling motor batteries, and I've been running AGMs now for about a decade.
Okay.
A little longer than a decade. So I'm really excited to run your guys' AGMs going forward.
Very good, yes.
What can you tell me about the specs on this particular AGM?
Sure, yes. So this is our XTR31-135. It's a Group 31 deep cycle AGM high performance battery. Okay. This is very popular for trolley motors or as a dual purpose option for starting in electronics.
Yeah.
It has 135 amp hours of capacity and 800 cold cranking amps.
And that's about the highest. 135 is about as high as you're going to get from a 31 series, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
For an AGM, that would be the highest that we offer. And for a trolley motor, this will power your motor all day long. You're going to have
and then some.
And then some, yeah.
Yeah.
Some customers go 2 days on the same charge on a set of these. And these will be very durable and rugged for your boat, as with our lithium batteries. So a common question we get is, should I go AGM or lithium on the trolley motor batteries?
Okay.
Both have their benefits. A good quality AGM is going to deep cycle very well, meaning you can discharge it deeply and recharge it many times.
Okay.
And it's going to have excellent power output all day long. So you're not missing anything by going to AGM on your trolley motor. If you need to save weight, then it'd be advantageous to go to a lithium setup.
Yeah.
So you could go for like 300 amp hour lithiums to give you a similar runtime of 135 amp hour AGMs, for example.
Most of the guys that I know that are running lithiums for their trolling motors are doing it either to save weight or to save space.
Right.
So for example, this is a 24 volt, right?
Correct.
So here you have a single 24 volt battery, which if you're limited on space in your trolling motor battery compartment,
right,
there's certainly an advantage to that.
Definitely, yes.
But given that I'm not limited to space, I'm currently running 231 series batteries already.
Okay.
So I do have room for a pair of 31 series sized batteries.
Yes.
And I'm running an aluminum boat. I'm never going to be a speed demon boat, right? So I'm not concerned about saving the 75 pounds up front.
Right.
So I can't think of any reason why I would go to a lithium over the AGM.
Sure, yes.
I'm going to be able to run my same charging system.
Correct.
With the AGM, where I'd have to change charging systems with the lithium.
Correct, yes.
So I in my particular needs, I really can't see the use for a lithium. Not the use, I can't see the demand for a lithium.
Yes, yeah.
If AGM.
If weight's not a concern, AGM is definitely going to be your best value.
Right.
Especially if you get a good premium AGM, which is what we offer here at VMAX.
Yeah.
So with this type of setup, you're easily going to get your 8 to 10 hours of trolling per day with plenty of capacity left over. And it's going to be compatible with your current onboard charging system, as you mentioned.
So for the guy who's on a tight budget,
yes,
and he's always only ever run lead acids, what is the advantage for that guy to run AGMs?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple advantages. If you switch from a standard wet lead acid battery and go to an AGM, now you don't have to worry about the maintenance portion of checking water levels.
Yeah.
These are also fully sealed, so you can lay them on their side. They're non-spillable, so you don't have any risk of acid leaking from the battery like a flooded lead acid would.
Yeah.
It's gonna deep cycle better than a standard lead acid, meaning even if you discharge it down to 80%, it's going to recover very well.
Okay.
Whereas a standard lead acid, if you discharge it to 80 or 100% several times, it really takes a hit on its performance.
Okay.
Whereas these can handle about 1,050% discharge cycles, and about 300 cycles even at 100% depth of discharge.
Wow.
Now, if you size your AGMs properly, which in your case here, you're probably only going to use 30 to 50%, you're going to get 1 to 2,000 charge cycles out of your AGM battery.
So we're looking at years of service.
Yes, yes.
When I personally switched from traditional lead acid to AGMs, I went from getting 2 to 3 seasons out of a traditional lead acid battery, especially when you fail to maintain them properly, right?
Right.
You go a couple months where it's not completely full of water because you didn't think to check it.
Yes.
So typically I would see 2 to 3 seasons worth of use out of a standard traditional lead acid battery.
Yes.
I went to AGMs and 4 to 5 year cycles were common.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I tried a couple of different brands of AGM.
Sure.
And both of them gave similar performance. So
right.
For me, it was no brainer. Hey, there's a cost savings here.
Yes.
If I buy them half as frequently or even 40% as frequently
right.
as I'm buying lead acids.
Yep.
And the difference in price isn't fantastic, right? It's not a great
right.
difference in price. So I was clearly saving money the minute I switched to AGM.
Yes, yes.
I spent a few bucks up front, a few more dollars up front.
Right.
But I got a long-term cost savings.
Right, yep. And something else to mention as an advantage to the AGM is because there's no electronics, like in a lithium battery you have a BMS and many different components, you do naturally have less failure points that are possible in an AGM because it's a chemistry, it's not controlled by some electronic device.
Yep.
So if you have a case where you're fishing in extreme cold or extreme hot, this is not going to be limited like a lithium would in terms of temperature variance. Now with our lithium, we do have self-heated options. So if you do have cold weather charging, for example, it does have that self-heater built in.
Yeah.
So with a good quality lithium, it will let you get away with more.
Okay.
But if you do need the most reliable setup, especially for starting, we highly recommend the AGM. And then for your trolling motor or your electronics, if weight's a concern, lithium is an excellent option.
Okay. And we are in Michigan, and most of my buddies and myself, we start running our boats the minute there's enough ice out of the river that we can get in the river. So
exactly. Yep.
Here it is March 2nd. I've already been out a handful of times in the river.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon for us to run in 20-degree temperatures.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we have customers that run either series in those temperatures, and they work very well.
My lithium, I've run it in 30-degree temps.
Definitely. Yes.
No issues.
Yep. And just to clarify on the temperature, these can work down to -4 Fahrenheit on the lithium.
Okay.
It's just in terms of charging, they need to be at least 32 Fahrenheit for charging.
Okay.
But with that built-in heater that we offer, there's no concern there, right?
Right.
So if you have a good lithium and you need to save weight, this is definitely a great option. Otherwise, a very good premium deep cycle AGM is gonna run your boat all day long.
How about long-term maintenance, long-term storage?
Yes.
For both AGMs and lithiums.
Yes. So with AGM, the main thing is to keep them on a charger. So if you're storing it during the winter, keep it on charge. It's better to avoid freezing temperatures during storage.
Yeah.
But they're okay with cold environments for storage.
Okay.
As long as you have them on a charger, that charger will generate some heat internally to avoid freezing on the battery.
And a trickle charger is enough to do that, right?
A trickle charger is okay to use as long as they're fully charged.
Yeah.
So ideally you want to use, for example, on this battery, a 10 amp or more for charging.
Okay.
Once they're fully charged, you could then switch over to a trickle charger just to keep them maintained.
Charged,
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And nowadays, most multi-bank chargers that put out 10 amps or more switch to trickle mode, so you can just use that same charger for storage purposes.
And typically what I do is for the winter, somewhere between the opener of deer season, November 15th,
right,
and Christmas, what I prefer to do is I prefer to pull them out of the boat and I store them in the basement.
Yep.
I keep a trickle charger on them in the basement.
Yes.
If for whatever reason I wind up having to store them in the boat, then I will insulate them with a blanket or something, and I'll just run my trickle. Once I've got them topped off, I keep my trickle charger running on it all season.
Right.
All winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, which, I mean, for me, all winter is generally only a couple of months.
Sure,
right?
yep. Well, taking them in will definitely help them last longer. So.
Okay. Now, how about the lithium?
With lithium.
Same concern with the cold?
With lithium, it is better to bring them inside.
Okay.
So if you want them to last their full 10-year design life,
yeah.
taking them inside and keeping them stored indoors will help them give you that full lifespan that they're rated for. However, with lithium, you don't want to keep them on a charger during storage.
Right.
So you want to charge them ideally to around 80%, 70 to 80%, and then just put them inside without any loads connected. And then, just leave them.
Yeah, cool temp, but not freezing temp.
Right, exactly.
And then just reinstall it in the spring, put the charger back up to it, and
yes,
run her up to 100%.
Correct, yes.
Good deal. I'm glad I did that right.
Yes. Yep.
All right, fantastic. Anything else you can think of that our friends might want to know about their battery needs?
Sure. So your battery needs really vary depending on each use case scenario. Mm-hmm. So we highly recommend talking to a technical expert. So if you call us at VMAX Tanks or visit vmaxtanks.com, we do have a full support staff who can look at your system and help you make the best decision in terms of whether you want AGM, lithium, what size, how many amp hours, and so on.
The last thing I think that is worth mentioning, the cabling that you guys provide for the jumper between the two trolling motor batteries, or 3 if you're running a 36 volt.
Right.
The jumper cable that you guys provide is a much softer, more flexible jumper cable.
It is, yes.
Than what I have traditionally had in my boats.
Yes, yeah. So we use the UltraFlex 100% copper cables.
Okay.
So we highly recommend always going with 100% copper, good quality cables, and make sure everything is tight. That kind of goes back to the maintenance side.
Right.
You want to always have your terminals clean and tight. So throughout your season, just double check everything.
Yeah.
Most issues with batteries are typically due to like loose connections or someone not maintaining them properly, right? So as long as you have everything properly connected, install the right circuit breakers or fuses, your batteries should last you a long time when maintained properly.
Perfect. And these are pretty much going to be the lowest maintenance options that a guy can run. Correct,
yes. Our AGMs are maintenance free, so all you have to do is charge them after each use.
Yeah.
Same with lithium, you can just charge them after each use during the season, and then in the off season, just unplug them from your system, bring them indoors. That'll help them last a long time. With our AGMs, when I see people who have them for 10 plus years, they're generally bringing them inside and really taking care of them very, very well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you store them in the boat, it's still okay on the AGMs, but if you're not being as careful with them, you might get 6 to 7 years versus 8 to 10 years, right?
Yeah. If you get 6 years out of an AGM, you still can't complain.
Exactly,
you know?
Yes.
You're never going to get that out of a traditional lead acid.
Exactly, yes. And the nice thing about a good quality AGM is even as you get into year 4 or 5, it's still going to give very good power output. Whereas a standard lead acid is really going to take a hit as the years go on.
I've noticed that every season after the original season of my traditional lead acid batteries, every season you get a little bit less runtime.
Yes, yes.
Or, you know, especially if you run at top end power, I've noticed it to be substantial.
Yes.
From year 1 to year 2, and then by year 3, you're really handicapped because you're now running at such lower performance.
Yes.
Where I have not experienced that with AGMs.
Correct. Yes, and that's why a lot of people switch to our AGMs. You know, we really don't take any shortcuts with our batteries. Our AGMs have very thick military grade plates. As you can see, we use copper terminals. Everything is overbuilt, so the plates are anchor bonded inside, so they're very vibration resistant, shock resistant. They're very long lasting, and the same principles apply to our lithium. Everything's overbuilt. We use a very heavy duty battery management system, brand new cells in our batteries, very thick oversized connectors between the cells and the BMS. So really no shortcuts taken here. And we're a Michigan-based company, so you know we've been in the battery industry for about almost 30 years now.
I love that. I love that if I have a question, I just call you guys up.
Exactly.
Or you're just down the road. I mean, I only live 20 minutes from here. So
there you go. Yes.
You guys are right down the road from me, but really excited. I'll give you a report here in a few months and let you know how they compare to
Sounds great, John.
AGMs I've had in the past.
Very good.
Thanks for answering our questions.
Appreciate your time here.